As with any space-based sci-fi franchise worth its spice, Star Wars has a lot of cool starships. The designs of these craft vary wildly based on era, manufacturer, and the preferences of the owners, and the starships of the Star Wars galaxy are about as diverse as the many alien species that live there. But some of these ships could get a little weird, and there are a select few starship designs that were so utterly bizarre that you really have to wonder what the designers were thinking. In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 such vessels.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
We'll start with one of the most ridiculous starships ever conceived, which also happens to be one of our favorites. Jedi Lord Valentine Farfalla's personal gun ship, the Fairwind. This ship played a pivotal role in the 7th Battle of Ruusan in 1000 BBY, essentially winning the battle for the Army of the Light. The Fairwind was as ostentatious and ridiculous as Farfalla himself, a notoriously foppish, ceremony-oriented, and deeply unserious Jedi Lord who had a whole fleet of ships of similar design. The ridiculousness of the Fairwind is evident just from looking at it. It's a flying galleon complete with a unicorn figurehead, decorative sails made out of sheets of metal, and an open deck amidships where members of the crew could walk around when the Fairwind was in atmosphere. The aft end of the ship featured a pair of 2 tall watchtowers topped with red flags. The absurdity of this ship is compounded by the fact that it was actually made of wood, Roshir wood to be specific, which could be made as durable as steel by Wookiee woodworkers. We don't have exact measurements for this craft, but we would estimate it to be corvette or frigate sized. The Fairwind was propelled by a set of 4 side-mounted engines and was hyperspace capable. The Fairwind had a very ornate design, but it was nonetheless a surprisingly practical ship. Its hull was reinforced with powerful deflector shields, and the ship was excellent at combat in atmosphere and hard vacuum alike. In atmospheric combat, troops could take position on the upper deck or behind sets of portholes built into the sides, through which they could snipe at enemy troops on the ground. The ship could carry 300 troops alongside Farfalla and his retinue, and it was also packed with weaponry. The Fairwind was armed with 10 powerful dual-mount laser cannons, 6 with forward-firing arcs and 2 per side, mounted in turrets. In the 7th Battle of Ruusan, the firepower of this gunship was sufficient to crush a Sith offensive on its own. The Fairwind participated in battles throughout the Ruusan campaign, but after the 6th battle, it departed the Ruusan system when Farfalla left to recruit more Jedi to deploy as reinforcements. After picking up an additional 300 Jedi, Farfalla and his fleet crushed the local Sith king, Lazar, and then returned to Ruusan just in time to join the 7th battle. The Fairwind and the rest of Farfalla's fleet broke the Sith blockade of the planet and then saved the remnants of the Army of Light from a Sith ground offensive, single-handedly turning the tide of the battle. The Brotherhood of Darkness went from near certain victory to utter defeat, and against all odds, the Jedi won the 7th Battle of Ruusan, all because of Farfalla and his ridiculous gunships. Our next ship is a more modern but no less ridiculous design, the TIE Wing, also known as the TIE Y, the Y-Wing, and the Die Wing. This ship was an aftermarket hybrid of 2 wildly different starfighter classes, in this case a BTL A4 Y-Wing and a TIE/LN starfighter. There were ways to combine these 2 craft to make a decently useful starfighter, and the TIE Wing wasn't any of them. No, this craft took the standard TIE cockpit module, stripped off the wings and iron engines, and slapped a pair of Y-Wing engines onto it. It was the worst of both worlds, quite possibly the worst starfighter ever conceived, and it looks absurd to boot. The TIE Wing combined the Y-Wing's slow speed and average maneuverability with the TIE Fighter's lack of shields and hyperdrive capability. Its firepower was decidedly mediocre too, as it used the light laser cannons from the TIE Fighter instead of any of the Y-Wing's heavier weapons. Ostensibly, the TIE Wing was an assault fighter meant to be used for attack runs, but in practice, it functioned best when it wasn't used at all. Its combat performance was terrible, and it had basically zero survivability, earning it the nickname of the Die Wing. Despite the fact that they were worse than useless, TIE Wings nonetheless existed, and some foolhardy individuals even used them. Several pirate gangs, including Cavils, Corsairs, and a few other gangs that flew under the sigil of the Blazing Claw, maintained a few TIE Wings, presumably out of subconscious suicidal ideation, and a few private defense fleets had TIE Wing squadrons too. Rebel privateers and Imperial remnant fleets occasionally made use of TIE Wings for reasons unknown. Our best guess is that they simply hated themselves. Okay, well, let's put that atrocity behind us and let's take a look at a bizarre ship of an entirely different sort. The Yuuzhan Vong Core Chock battleship. Now, you might argue that including a Vong ship on this list is cheating. Every ship the Vong used was bizarre, from their fighters to their world ships. But we couldn't not mention at least one Vong vessel, and we've chosen the Core Chock because it's a weird design even for the Yuuzhan Vong. It looks absolutely nothing like a ship, not even in a very abstract sense. The Core Chock was, in terms of firepower and strategic use, the Yuuzhan Vong equivalent of a superstar destroyer, and it could arguably be classified as a mobile space station. Like all Yuuzhan Vong vessels, the Core Chock was an organic ship, an enormous living creature in its own right. Core Chock started life as much smaller capital ships, but they steadily grew in size over the course of their lives, especially as they participated in battles, took damage, and grew new tissue to replace what had been lost. The Vong grafted pieces of destroyed vessels onto their Core Chock to grow their size even more and improve their capabilities, and as such, the most battle-hardened Core Chock were virtually unrecognizable, covered in layers of organic salvage and packed full of weapons. Every Core Chock had a unique design, but most consisted of a cluster of interconnected hemispherical modules with long, needle-like docking arms extending from them. These juggernauts were around 8 kilometers long on average. They required crews of over 2,000 Vong, and they could carry 26,880 tons of cargo. Core Chock were armored with yorick coral, a dense organic material that formed the outer skin of all Vong vessels, and they were both protected and propelled through space by an array of many large Dovan basiles. Dovan basiles generated powerful gravitational fields, which propelled the Core Chock through space and also intercepted fire from enemy craft. The large group of Dovan basiles aboard a Core Chock could also work together to project interdiction fields, preventing enemy craft from jumping to hyperspace. The Core Chock itself was hyperspace capable, if quite slow compared to New Republic vessels. The long docking arms of the Core Chock housed vast swarms of smaller Vong craft, which were used to create fighter screens for the battleships and to deploy troops to the surface of target worlds. Each could carry and deploy 30 yorick tremors, each of which had a capacity of 36 ground troops as well as 216 yorick ets, or coral skippers, the main starfighter equivalent of the Yuuzhan Vong invasion force. The Core Chock itself was also very heavily armed, as you might expect from such a vast battleship. Apart from the ship's interdiction-capable Dovan basiles, the Core Chock was armed with 120 Yarret cores, the main weaponry of the Yuuzhan Vong. These were sometimes compared to plasma cannons, but they were unique weapons that took in asteroids as ammunition, melted them down, and spat them out at high velocities as globs of superheated lava. The Core Chock were terrifying, but they were also ridiculous to look at. Even in comparison to other Yuuzhan Vong technology, these look well and truly alien, which is really saying something. They look like abstract sculptures more than anything else. But for all their weirdness, Core Chock were some of the most fearsome warships of all time, and the galaxy was fortunate that the Yuuzhan Vong only had a handful of them at the time of their invasion. Still, even that handful did an incredible amount of damage, and Core Chock were some of the hardest Vong ships for New Republic fleets to take down. So, that was our look at 3 absurdly designed ships from 3 different eras of galactic history. Let us know which out of these 3 is your favorite in the comment section below, and whether you'd like us to talk about more bizarre starships in the future. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.